Star Wars. Man, that intro will never get old for me. I mean, purely legendary. Now, this movie is pretty solid by itself. When you read the book, Before the Awakening, then see the movie, you're gonna have yourself a serious case of the feels. I mean, if somehow, some way, you found yourself in a position where you have not seen the movie yet, there's nothing but spoilers ahead for you. You've been warned, spoilers. So let's talk about the book and why it matters in the film, followed by some fun theories. Now, starting with Rey. Rey, this girl is a freaking genius. She lives in a world known as Jakku. Now, Jakku was a beautiful planet. Now, I say was because it was hit by a terrible storm known as the Zeus Rhea. Now, it completely devastated the entire planet. Now, while she was trapped in that storm, she was bored, gets a flight simulator, and learns to fly nearly every ship out there. So her pilot skills are on point. Now, you may ask where I'm going with this, but bear with me, that there is a strong point in all this. Now, she runs into a couple named Debbie and Strunk. Now, Debbie's just kind of like this spunky young girl, and Strunk is a giant. Now, when they find Rey, she'd recently found herself a ship. Now, it wasn't really working, but they wanted to help her out. Now, over the course of about a year, they really developed a bit of a friendship, and they would help her gather parts, and Rey, with just her knowledge in general, built a ship. I'm talking like, go to space, light speed, fully capable, gonna sell for thousands of dollars. A ship. Now, that's relevant because, well, it makes you kind of wonder how she was so good with the Falcon, because the Force can only explain but so much. So, back to it. She's got the ship, getting ready to sell it, for thousands of portions split between them. And Debbie and Strunk betray her. They fly off. Now, this really got to me because in the film, you see her kind of like go up against a pile of rubble, lean on there, put on a helmet, and you see a ship fly off in the background. She notices, obviously, and then covers her eyes with a visor, almost as if to cover tears. Stuff like this is why you read the books. Let's talk about FN 2187, later known as Finn. Finn was one of the greatest things to ever come out of the Academy, to the point where he was among the top 1%. Captain Phasma praised him publicly. Now, under Finn were Zeros, Nines, and Slips. Slips was called that because he was an absolute klutz. The dude just could not get it together. Zeros and Nines, well, they were called that because that was a play off their trooper designation. Now, Finn was known as FN 2187 at the time because that's just the name he wanted. He didn't want a nickname or anything like that, which really didn't help him out a lot. He didn't really fit in because he didn't have a nickname and was also better than everyone else. Now, some might question whether or not, well, Finn was Force sensitive. I mean, I don't see why you would ask that question when you, oh, look at all the advertisement. Well, let's talk about that. Now, at this picture here, you're actually seeing a photo of Finn taking on Zeros. Now, in the book, they were moving on to melee weapons, which they were all picking up pretty good, except for Slips. So, in here, if you look in the background, you see a red-headed gentleman. Now, this is an angry man. This is Nines. Zeros had some hate, but Nines was so much that Finn could literally feel the hate coming off of him because he came at him like a madman from the very beginning of the fight. Now, you ask yourself, well, is Finn Force sensitive? Get to the point, Bill. Well, I'll tell you. Now, if you look to, I don't know, paragraph 2 of page 36 of Greg Rucka's Before the Awakening, it says, and I quote, "He saw the follow-up coming before Nines launched it. He knew the attack was slashing in again, and that time, instead of stepping away from it, FN 2187 stepped forward and under Nines' guard." Now, the fact that he foresaw it and moved first says enough for me. Now, sadly, after all of this, during his second mission, which is where you see him in the beginning of the film, they're all there. Zeros, Nines, FN 2187, and Slips. And yes, Slips is the one that dies rubbing his blood all over Finn's face. Kinda makes you wonder, maybe they had a grudge from like way back in the day leading something. You know, the writers could really have hated certain...
Let me handle this!
Slippy, get back here!
Well, I don't know, that's what I would have done. That's the only thing I could kind of really. Finn then eventually sees and saves Poe, where Poe actually gives him a nickname, Finn. Instead of FN2187, Finn, and befriends him right there on the spot. This is Finn's first friend. So the shock of Poe dying and all that there, that really sinks in there. Spoilers, he totally wasn't dead. And when Finn finally meets Rey, now we can go back to Rey abandoned, alone in crowds. Finn, alone in crowds. The two coming together are like two parts making a whole, and it is beautiful. Now, you ask yourself, okay, well, what about, zeros and nines? Well, we don't really see a lot of zeros, but nines... There he is, looking for vengeance after Finn not only embarrassed him, but abandoned the First Order. Now, focusing on relevance between the movie and the book, some might ask, who is Poe? Well, besides the guy who looks at Finn like a steak and gives him his jacket, he's actually the son of war heroes. His mother was an ace pilot who helped take down the second Death Star, and his father was a commander who helped Han Solo in Endor. Now, speaking of which, you've questioned Han Solo, doing the no-look shot like, in the movie. Well, Poe's father did describe him as saying, General Solo was the best shot he'd ever seen with a blaster. I mean, we're talking about, his cannon. Anyway, but he followed in his mother's footsteps by actually using a A-wing for speed. Now, as you actually can see him in the background, taking down 8 fighters in about 10 seconds before he actually runs into Finn again. And Finn saying, that's one hell of a pilot. Now, really, like, watch the movie, you can count. It's amazing. Well, that pretty much covers, all the intro stuff from the book leading on to the movie. Now on to fun thoughts and theories. Now, even with all that I've read and seeing the movie, the fun part are all the well-placed holes. Now, when it comes to Kylo, the guy who took down Luke's Jedi Order and joined up with Snoke and the First Order and is the master of the Knights of Ren. Pretty cool, but I guess people do have, all their own opinions of Kylo.
A buddy of mine saw Kylo Ren take his shirt off in the shower, and he said that Kylo Ren had an 8-pack. But Kylo Ren was shredded.
What? Your friend's a liar, man. Kylo Ren is a punk bitch. That guy looks like he weighs 30 pounds soaking wet underneath that little black dress. Tim?
Oh no, he's choking on food.
I actually think he's alright.
I ran into Kylo Ren in the bathroom. He told me to give you this.
After the rain comes the rainbow. Sorry, I killed your son.
But seriously, he does stop a blaster bolt in midair, uses force stasis multiple times, force choke, and in the end, he takes a shot from Wookiee bowcaster. Now, then gets cut by Finn. Then gets cut across the leg by Rey, keeps fighting, then gets cut by the chest and face by Rey. By the way, when everything's all getting just crushed and destroyed, you can actually see him get up. On top of that, if you listen carefully when he's interrogating Rey, he describes loneliness on a vast ocean stuck on an island. This guy was looking for a map for Luke Skywalker and just found him without even realizing it. Because, spoilers, that is a perfect description of where Luke is. Also, when Snoke tells him that even you, Master of the Knights of Ren, haven't faced a test like this, he says that before he goes off and kills Solo. Now I'm going to bring this up because it doesn't really factor into the rules of 2. I mean, it's kind of Naruto-ish, where to get your Sharingan mastered, you have to kill whoever you're closest to. Not that Naruto has anything to do with Star Wars, but you get what I'm saying here is that Kylo needed to fully give in to his dark side. Vader, even though he did eventually kill Obi-Wan, he couldn't kill Luke in Episode 5. Now, Palpatine tried to get Luke to kill Vader in Episode 6 to really give in to his hate, and Luke could not do that. Now, let's take a look at Snoke, who really talked Kylo into killing his father. When you take a closer look at that, and also what's still canon, who could Snoke be?
There is no use for such crude implements here. a gift for you.
I've had enough of your trickery.
But you'll like this one, I promise. What if I could show you the future?
No. No. Stop it.
Know yourself. Know what you...
Ah, yes. The Sun. Now, if you don't know who the Sun is a character in Season 3 of Star Wars Clone Wars who is the dark side embodied. It was the father, the son, and the daughter. The father wanted Anakin to replace him. The daughter was, in fact, a complete embodiment of the light side. The son was a complete embodiment of the dark side, and the father was the balance. This made Anakin very, very relevant. Though the son was a giant and a ridiculously powerful dark side force user who was trying to manipulate Anakin, even showing him in visions that he would eventually give in and become Darth Vader. So the question is, what happened to him? Well, after not being able to kill his own father and being distracted by him beautifully, he is actually stabbed and left for dead on Mortis by Anakin. But you never really saw him die. And when it comes to looking further into that, as well as tying Luke Skywalker, who Snoke is looking for, and his relevance to, the original 3 cast and the new cast, and especially a strange thing said by Maz, the 1,000-year-old Force-sensitive, spoilers, lady, who says, and I quote, "I've seen darkness take many forms, the Sith, the Empire, and now calling itself the First Order." We'll get into that a little further into my next video. In the meantime, feel free to comment all your thoughts, subscribe, and hey, look forward to the next time.